The Tar Heels were this close to forcing a Game 3 in the Chapel Hill Super Regional. But having to overcome both Arkansas and Mother Nature was just too much. And by the way, who hit all of Carolina's bats? Where did they go? We're going to talk about it on today's episode of Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it is Monday, June 13th, 2022. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or your first watch every single day. Don't forget that we are free and available anywhere you get podcasts, so please subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and smash the like button and leave a comment with your favorite memories from this year's baseball season. Today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. Well, since this is our first show since the Super Regional, we got to unpack the whole thing. And so here's how I'm going to structure today's show. I want to start by just looking at the two games against Arkansas in total, and then we're going to go in reverse order. Sunday's game was just such a good baseball game. I want to hit that, and then we'll end by talking about Game 1 on Saturday. So let's just look at the Super Regional as a whole. Man, again, this to me was just such a neat matchup. I love getting ACC versus SEC, the two most storied conferences in college baseball. These are two of the most known entities and storied college baseball programs, neither of which has won a national championship. In fact, they are two of the top five in terms of schools that the number of times they've made the College World Series without ever winning it in terms of nationally. And so it's just kind of crazy. And to be that renowned as college baseball programs, and yet they've only actually played once before. They met in 1989 in the College World Series. And an interesting thing that is more about Sunday's Game 2 than Saturday's Game 1, but on Saturday night, you probably are aware that Mac Horvath had emergency appendectomy surgery, and so missed Sunday's Game 2. And just baseball aside, thoughts go out to you because to you, Mac, because there is no routine surgery, even though appendectomies are something that happen with some level of regularity. Just it is surgery, and you have to recover from it. And so I would imagine that was affecting him in Game 1 as well on Saturday. And so, man, Mac Horvath, heal quickly, and best of luck to you in your recovery. I love that the Tar Heels had his jersey hanging up in the dugout during Sunday's game. Now, hand up, cold takes exposed. I was way off on my predictions of how this series would play out. Not only in terms of Carolina winning in 3 games, which they came so close to forcing a Game 3, but I said this was going to be an offensive slugfest. And my friends, this series was anything but that, which I love, right? Because so often college baseball is that. It's just about the aluminum bats overpowering pitching staffs and college-level defenses. But this was just good baseball with a lot of small ball from both teams. We had sacrifice bunts, which I don't even know if Major League Baseball players know how to do anymore, especially with both leagues having the DH now, but both coaches calling sacrifice bunts in the games. And so, man, to that point, while I was way off, I was pleased that this turned into more of an actual baseball game with pitchers a baseball series with pitchers making pitches, defenses making great plays, and some timely hitting as needed. Unfortunately, not enough for Carolina. And to that point, I want to look at Carolina's offensive struggles as a whole. First, credit to Arkansas, their pitching staff, their defense. They did a great job holding the Tar Heels down. But look at this with me. Carolina in the regional last weekend. Now, granted, this was 5 games in the regional instead of 2 games in the super regional, but they hit 14 home runs in the regional round. Now, that's 5 games, but still, you spread that out. That's more than 2 home runs a game for the Tar Heels. And in fact, it's just shot 1 home run shy of 3 home runs a game. Contrast that with the Super Regional, in which the Tar Heels just hit 1 home run. That's Vance Honeycutt's in Game 1, Carolina's 1 run in that game. And it wasn't just the home runs, it was the runs in general. In the regional round, the Tar Heels, in their 5 games, scored 15, 3, 6, 19, and 7. That averages out to exactly 10 runs a game in the regional. And Carolina in the Super Regional, well, they had just Honeycutt's home run in Game 1 and then just 3 in Game 2. So they totaled 4 runs in the 2 Super Regional games for an average of 2 runs per game. That's a far cry from the 10 that they scored in the regional. And as part of that as well, they didn't score until the 7th inning of Game 2. They were scoreless for the first 6. And so that means that in the first 16 innings of the Super Regional, all 9 innings of Game 1 and the first 6 innings there of Game 2, that means they were held scoreless for the first 15 innings of this series. Yikes. That's crazy. And so that's not going to get the job done for what Carolina was bringing to the table. Except, let's look at the flip side of that. It's not like Arkansas was doing much offensively either. I think maybe it feels that way because they had that one big inning in Game 1 where they scored 3 runs. But listen, Arkansas only scored 4 runs a game. 4 in each game, exactly 8 total for an exact average of 4 per game. And so if you told me coming into this series that the Tar Heels were going to hold Arkansas to 4 runs a game, I would have been like, great, here we go. Let's get our bags packed for Omaha. Carolina's definitely scoring more than that. And look at the regional round for Arkansas, similar to Carolina, but they were even better. They only had 4 games, but they scored 7, 20, 10, and 7. That's an average of exactly 11 runs per game for Arkansas. Crazy impressive. But just like Carolina's offense, Arkansas's was held down as well. And so again, I looked at these 2 lineups on paper, and I thought, boy, they're going to beat up on these pitchers. But kudos to both pitching staffs and both defenses for a job well done. And that, to me, makes for better baseball. Now, that might be because I grew up as a child of the 90s watching the Braves pitching staff of Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, and John Smoltz just annihilating offenses. But I love a good pitchers matchup, and that's what these were. And so ultimately then what it boils down to for me is the biggest storyline of the weekend in terms of Carolina's not advancing was their missed opportunities or their lack of opportunities, which they were unable to create or unable to cash in on. And so that's, to me, where everything falls apart. Now, here's the good news. The Tar Heels are in good company, or maybe I should say bad company. They're not the only national seed to not make it to Omaha. If you're unaware of how the rankings go for this, the NCAA hands out 16 national seeds, and those are your 16 regional hosts. And they create the brackets so as if all the chalk held, the top national seed, which was Tennessee, would host 16 in the Super Regional, 2 versus 15 and on like that until you get to 8 and 9, which was ECU and Texas. And then that means that if the chalk holds, that the 8 teams advancing to Omaha for the College World Series should be the top 8 national seeds. Not so. Check this out. Here's your top 8 national seeds and what they have done or are doing as of when I'm recording this. Number 1 national seed, Tennessee. Overwhelming favorite to run away with the national championship. Gets knocked out in the Super Regional by Notre Dame, not a seeded team. Number 2, Stanford. They almost lost in the regional round to Texas State. Yikes. They lost game 1 to UConn. They are winning game 2 as I record this, and so they will have a game 3 on Monday today. Oregon State also lost game 1. They are just starting as I record this against Auburn for game 2. Virginia Tech, the 4th seed, lost their series to unseeded Oklahoma. Texas A&M, as of right now, is the only seeded team to be in the College World Series. They won theirs. Miami, the 6th seed, lost in the regional. 7th seed, Oklahoma State, lost in their regional. And ECU is in game 3 versus Texas. They've been in a rain delay all of Sunday, but the Longhorns right now lead 4-0, and that game's just about to get underway again as I'm recording. So, in terms of teams that have already punched their tickets to Omaha, there are 5 as of the time I'm recording this. Again, Texas A&M is the only top 8 national seed to be in the College World Series right now. The other 4 that are already in are Oklahoma, not a national seed, Notre Dame, not a national seed, and Arkansas, not a national seed, and Ole Miss, not a national seed. We're still waiting on Texas versus East Carolina, which they're both national seeds, so there will be one, and Auburn versus Oregon State. They're both national seeds, so they'll get one. But then also UConn and Stanford. And so if UConn pulls off that upset, that means 5 of the 8 teams in the College World Series will not be from those top 16, which is pretty bonkers. Now, what it also means is there is a possibility that even though we're guaranteed at least 3 seeded teams, there's a possibility that we will only have 1 of the top 8 national seeds, and that's Texas A&M, who's already in. But 1, 4, 6, and 7 are already out, and there's a chance that number 2 Stanford could go down. There's a chance that number 3 Oregon State could go down, and there's a chance that number 8 East Carolina could go down. That, friends, is the beauty of baseball and why this is such a fun sport. And as an aside, you might have seen I tweeted this on Sunday. The super regional format started in 1999. To this day, the only number 1 overall national seed that won the national championship was that year, that first year of the Super Regionals, which was Miami. Literally every year since then, the number 1 overall seed has not won the national championship. In fact, with Tennessee going down on Sunday, the number 1 overall seed hasn't even made it to the College World Series in the past 3 years. Pretty crazy stuff. Well, Carolina thought they might be on the doorstep of getting a 3rd game with a shot at getting to the College World Series themselves, but it was not meant to be. But had they forced game 3, there would have been an unlikely and unexpected hero who did it. Who was it? Oh, we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But first, let me tell you about BetOnline. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the number 1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including the NBA Finals going on right now, MLB scores, fights, and even the upcoming NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering info, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about all the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, Sunday. Ugh. This was such a gut-wrenching baseball game. So many great twists and turns. A pitcher's duel for a lot of the game. And Carolina just had this shot right at the end. They came back to tie the game with some just good fundamental baseball, pushing a run across, and then took a lead in the 9th, but it was just not meant to be. And so if you watch me during basketball season, you'd like to know when I do a game review, I do a 4 corners review in honor of Coach Dean Smith, where I just make 4 big points about the game. And that's what we're going to do to unpack this baseball game, but it's going to be 4 points for the 4 bases. And the first one is what I've already alluded to, our almost hero, Mr. Patrick Alvarez. So let me set the scene for you. Carolina has come back to tie the game with just some great baseball, a sac bunt to get runners to second and third, a almost single up the middle to score both runners from second and third, but Arkansas made the play at first, scored a run, got the runner to third, and then a wild pitch tied the game. And so we're tied 2-2 going into the top of the ninth. Remember, Carolina was the visiting team for game 2. And so for the ninth inning, Frick, our catcher, leads off with a double. Great at bat, worked the count full up to 3-2, and then just sat on this inside fastball, turned on it, sent it down the left field line, and got a double out of it. And then here comes Castagnazzi, who again is filling in for Horvath, and he had been the one to lay down that sac bunt when Carolina scored earlier in the game. And so I thought Coach Forbes was going to have him do it again. He didn't, and Castagnazzi strikes out. And I was like, come on, man. Why are we not sacrificing there when it's already been successful earlier in the game? But that's why Coach Forbes is in the dugout, and I'm sitting here talking with all of us. And then I love it because the first almost hero, Joe Jakonski, comes up, first at bat of the Super Regional, gets a sac fly to right field. Frick is able to tag up and scamper over to third. 2 outs, runner on third. And here he comes, this man, Patrick Alvarez, first at bat of the Super Regional. Let me just give you the context to set up how cool this is. Coming into this at bat, he's hitting 121 for the season, well below the Mendoza line. He hasn't had an RBI since February 20th. March, April, May, June. That's just shy of 4 months since his last RBI. And so clearly, of course, then he's going to come in and be the hero, which he does. Gets a single to center field, gives Carolina the lead in the ninth inning. All they got to do is get 3 outs and force a game 3. In fact, his single was the first hit all day for the Tar Heels with runners in scoring position. And this is why baseball is awesome. Like, people can come out of nowhere and get a clutch hit and do things like that. And so, man, Patrick Alvarez, good for you. Hopefully that spurs on some great things for next season. And so, love that. Point number 1, unlikely, almost hero, Patrick Alvarez. Great job, great at bat there to get the Tar Heels the lead. Point number 2, second base. Weather, or the lack thereof, played a role in this game, a huge role in this game. Started at 1 o'clock Eastern time, but had 2 separate lightning delays. There was no actual rain. The skies were beautiful. But the first of these delays, because basically anytime you see more lightning, the clock restarts before you can get back into the game going. And so this first delay was 1 hour, 46 minutes. And then the second delay was shorter, but still over 1 hour and 8 minutes. And in both of those situations, both times there was this delay, the Tar Heels had momentum, all sorts of momentum going in their favor. And stifled some of that, although the second one, Carolina was still able to come back and build a lead there in the ninth. But I think the biggest issue is that because this turned this game into, they're out there on the field, or, for 6 or more hours, these two teams. And for Carolina, I think it hurt significantly their home field advantage. Why? Well, the Arkansas fans that are in attendance, where else are they going to go? They're literally in Chapel Hill for this baseball series. It's not like they're going to drive home or they had an appointment or a family dinner that night that they had to get back for. Whereas Tar Heels fans, maybe they figure, hey, this game's going to be done by 4 o'clock. We got a 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock dinner reservation. We'll go to that. Or, just those kind of things. You feel like, sure, I can make an appointment for 6 or 7 that night. And so they don't come back. But Arkansas, of course, is there. And so I think the biggest thing that happened is that these two non-weather delays really hurt Carolina's home field advantage and just the role that 10th man plays in a baseball game. So that's point number 2. Third base, the defense for Carolina came up big, defense and pitching. So Arkansas builds a lead, and in comes our man Palermo to shut the door. And so he comes in the 6th inning for the first time. 11 pitches, and he's out of there. 3 up, 3 down. That's what you need from a reliever coming in, shutting the door, getting that hold. But then in the 7th, the game, Carolina had just tied the game at 2 in the top of the inning, and this is where we start to get our web gems. Arkansas has a runner on second, 2 outs, and there is what looks like a guaranteed single to me. Off the bat, I was like, crap. Arkansas just got the lead back. But in comes our man, Vance Honeycutt, streaking forward. And this is one of the hardest catches for a center fielder to make, either something straight forward or straight back. It's so hard to make these plays, but comes barreling in and just makes this all-out diving straightforward play to rob this single, make the third out, and preserve the tie at 2-2. I love it. He makes the catch and then he just slams his throwing hand on the grass because he's so excited. What a great play from Vance Honeycutt there to end the inning and send the Tar Heels back to the plate. With the game still tied. And then we get into our second weather delay, but then the bottom of the 8th comes. And once again, Arkansas is threatening. This time there's just 1 out. I believe it was runners on first and second again. And there's a shot hit right up the middle. Palermo kind of dodges it, and it skips off the mound. I thought it was going to be one of those that then takes a weird, wonky bump and then ricochets off into left or right field or something, but it keeps going, and I was like, crap, that's going to get through. And Arkansas again, I was like, they're going to score the go-ahead run. It's going to be 3-2, and Carolina's going to go to the 9th inning, and they got to score. It's over. But here comes Danny Serretti sliding in right behind second base, is able to snare the ball. Because Carolina is in a defensive shift, he has to run to the bag, but gets there just ahead of the runner sliding in, grabs it, launches himself in the air, throws it to first base, double play. What an amazing, amazing play to preserve, again, the tie. And so these 6th, 7th, and 8th innings, just great, great fun baseball with Palermo 11 pitch, 3 up, 3 down inning in the 6th, Honeycutt's diving play in the 7th, and then Serretti's 6-3 double play there in the 8th. Great. If you love defensive baseball, that was a lot of fun. And then, as you know, Carolina comes up in the 9th, gets the lead back with Alvarez and his heroics. And then we go to the bottom of the 9th. And I'm really hoping at this point, Palermo has done his job. Kept Arkansas off the board the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th, but he hasn't gone 4 innings all season. Plus, when you add in the weather delay in between him throwing the 7th and 8th innings, I just thought, I know he's your most reliable and dependable guy right now, but Coach Forbes just has to pull him. Got to bring somebody else in to close this thing out. I know people make different decisions in playoffs. We see that in college and in the majors with their relievers down the stretch. You know, a coach calling on a closer to go 2 innings instead of 1. But asking these relievers to do things they don't do all season often comes back to backfire. We've seen it at the highest level in MLB, and of course we're going to see it in college too. And I just listen again. Scott Forbes is the man and the coach. But if I'm going to quibble, this is probably the one thing is like, I know Palermo's done his job, but you just got to go to somebody else there. Even if you take your game 3 starter and bring him in, right? Like you don't get that game 3 unless you finish off game 2. And so, not that Arkansas got any hard hits off of him. It was all dinks and dunk kind of stuff. Man. It just didn't work. It didn't happen. And so here we are, same. I feel almost so similarly to how I felt after the national championship basketball game, where it's like, man, this great team made this great run, and now here we are. So unfortunate. And then the defensive alignments down the stretch there on the play where Arkansas tied the game back up. The infield, I thought at that point should have been, because there weren't outs yet. They shouldn't have been at double play depth, but they were. The corners were in. But I thought the whole infield should have been in to cut off the run at home at least, and then you can go double play depth. But then on the play on the walk-off play, Carolina was back at that point in, and I thought at that point, that's when you should be at double play depth, because now we've got an out, and a double play gets us out of the inning and gets us to the 10th. But it just wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be, and man, they couldn't do it. They were so close to forcing Game 3, but it didn't happen. Well, Game 1 didn't have as much hope as Game 2 did, but it was still a really interesting game with some twists and turns. I think Carolina missed a massive opportunity, and how a body part got in the way of that. What happened? What was it? We'll talk about it in just a second. Let me tell you about the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft, which starts June 16th. That is this Thursday. Over 50 insiders coming at you, and so nothing equals the Ultimate NBA Mock Draft. The Locked On NBA Big Board Draft experts plus the Odyssey insiders are coming together to bring this to you. First pick is June 16th, so search Ultimate NBA Mock Draft and follow now so you don't miss a single pick. All right, getting back to Game 1 and our 4 bases for that. These are going to be a little bit shorter just because there just wasn't as much doing in Game 1, and that's honestly going to be one of my 4 bases here as we talk about it. But here's where we have to start, is at the beginning. The whole series, not just Game 1, the entire weekend to me shifted in the first inning of this game, and here's why. We get up there, Arkansas goes down, boom, 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 1, 2, 3 in the first inning. Great start. Things are feeling good. It's like, all right, we can maybe hold this potent offense down. And then Carolina gets out there against Arkansas starter Connor Noland, and they load the bases with 1 out. And it's like, all right, here we go. Bases loaded, 1 out. You know, maybe we don't put a crooked number up on the board, but let's at least get 1 here, get something on the board, and get rolling. Well, Osuna strikes out, and it's like, that's the critical at bat of the inning, right? He's got to do his job to get the run in, but he doesn't make contact. And then Mikey Madej comes up, 2 outs, still bases loaded, and anything can happen there. And Madej's been hot and had a 3-run homer in the regional. It was either in the final game or the next to last game. I can't remember which one it was now. I'm like, all right, Madej, let's do work. And he hits this shot. I was like, that's going through the hole right past second base. That's going to score 2, and we're on the board. But it hits the pitcher. And often when a line drive hits a pitcher, it ricochets like back across the foul line or maybe out towards one of the other infielders. But it's just too late, especially with somebody like Madej scampering out there, that he's able to leg it out or something. But it just didn't ricochet very far off of Noland, and he was able to throw out Madej at first base, and Arkansas gets out of the inning. And to me, I'm wondering how different is this game if that doesn't happen? What if that hit gets through and Carolina scores 2? And who knows what can happen after that? A home run, it's 5-0, whatever. But it didn't happen. And then we go to the second. Arkansas, that is a huge momentum swing when you're able to make a play like that and then get out of it and get moving. And so to me, that affected not just Game 1, but then it felt like it rolled over into Game 2, because all of Game 1, Carolina's bats, we've already talked about them. They were just tight or something. I don't know, man, crazy. And then let's go to second base. We already talked about Connor Noland and Arkansas's pitcher. You know what? Hats off. He did, and not that Max Carlson didn't do a good job. It's just Noland outdueled him on Saturday. Here's the thing for me with Noland. Two big things with what Noland did. I think in the same way that often when batters are not settled in, they just go up swinging and they're not themselves. With pitchers early in a game, it just takes a while to settle in, and then once they're in and going, they're good. Getting out of that first inning clearly settled him in, calmed him down, and then he was himself and just rolled throughout the game. There was no stopping him. Part of that was this. Here's what he was doing. Carolina clearly came in with this attacking game plan. Hey, no one's going to throw us fastballs. We're going to jump on those early in at bats, get on them, and get going. You saw that's what the Tar Heel hitters were doing early in the game. But Noland, was very quick to adjust and to start throwing working batters backwards, meaning usually a pitcher is going to throw fastball first and then off speed as an out pitch. And so when we talk about pitching backwards, that means we're going to start with off speed stuff, curveballs, changeups, splitters, whatever. And now that a batter's expecting a fastball, expecting the off speed, we're going to now give you the fastball, and you're looking off speed, and so you're not ready for that fastball and you're frozen. And so that's how he started pitching the Tar Heels. And it worked. Clearly it worked. And he had them off stride. Osuna struck out, and then Carolina was off kilter the rest of the game. Here's the biggest number from what Nolan did. First pitcher all season, one pitcher to throw 6 innings of shutout baseball against the Tar Heels. No single pitcher had held the Tar Heels scoreless all season long until Connor Noland on Saturday. Wow. Wow. That's a great job. You got to tip your hat, but you got to do better too. Third base, here we go. Carolina's lack of offense. We've already talked about how they did, but let's dive into a little bit of the nitty gritty of it. I talked just a second ago about Noland making adjustments. I don't think the Carolina batters were able to do that. I think they were so locked into this game plan of attack, that now that they start seeing off speed earlier in the count, they're just off. I don't know if it was a mental thing or a tight thing again. But hear this. I didn't realize this until I was prepping for the show today. Somehow I didn't catch it on Saturday. That first inning, Carolina loads the bases, brings a multitude of batters to the plate. After the first inning, Carolina, the rest of game 1, never brought more than 4 batters to the plate. Second inning, 4 batters. Third inning, 4 batters. Fourth inning, 3 up, 3 down. Fifth inning, 3 up, 3 down. Sixth inning, 4 batters. Seventh inning, 4 batters. Eighth inning, that's when Honeycutt hit his home run, but 3 other outs, 4 batters. And then the ninth inning, 4 batters. That means outside of that first inning where Carolina loaded the bases, the entire other 8 innings of the day, Carolina was either 3 up, 3 down or 4 up, 3 down. That's not winning baseball. And I know, again, Arkansas was pitching great. They got a great bullpen, just like the Tar Heels do. But, man, you got to go up there and have a plan to do that better. It just didn't happen. And that is the fourth point, home plate, is Carolina's inability to adjust to what they were seeing. We've already talked about it, and so we'll just leave it there. Let's not belabor the point. But that to me was probably the biggest one there at the end, is Carolina just didn't adjust. And so here's the thing, though. It's not, it is a somber note to end the season on, getting swept in the Super Regional. But think of everything Carolina accomplished this year. Think about the fact that Vance Honeycutt is going to be a Tar Heel for 2 more years. You've got all these special things. This Coach Forbes did this in his second year. There are bright days ahead for Carolina baseball, the Diamond Heels. But today, Monday, is a sad day. We wish we were getting to Game 3 to root for tonight, but it was not meant to be. Congrats to the Razorbacks, and begrudgingly good luck in Omaha in the College World Series. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Locked On Tar Heels, the first show of the week. Coming up this week, Pat Kilby and I are going to be talking about Will Schaefer. Got an interview with Alex Bresci from men's lacrosse team. All sorts of good stuff. It's going to be a great week. Thanks so much for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or your first watch every single day. Please go subscribe to the show wherever it is that you get podcasts. Smash the like button. Leave a comment once again about your favorite memories from this baseball season. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Heels. You can follow me on Twitter at Isaac Schade, ISAACSCHADE. And now, make your second listen of the day Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. Rafael Barlow and the whole crew give you an in-depth look into the biggest prospects, the latest player rankings, mock drafts, and of course, big boards. So follow Locked On NBA Big Board Show wherever it is that you get podcasts. Folks, I know it's a sad day again, but thank you so much for spending part of your Monday hanging out with me, talking Carolina baseball, and the fun but disappointing weekend that they had. And remember, even in the midst of the sadness, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Until tomorrow, peace.